On today's episode of Watch Chair Go, we are back with the 2015 Ford Focus that I've been working on for the past couple of days. This has the Powershift transmission in it. Of course it's broken. We tried to fix it and it's still having a bunch of issues. This is going to be the final video I make about it, but I'm going to respond to all of your comments about the install and everything else that went on with the car. What is going on, guys? I'm Watch Chair Go, and like I said, I'm here with that 2015 Ford Focus we've been working on for a bit. It's powered by the 2-liter 4-cylinder. The transmission is the 6 DPS. That is the Jetrag dry dual clutch that they built for the Focus and the Fiesta. And in this car, I ended up with a P0902 code. That's the Clutch A actuator circuit low. And that is actually the original problem that set the check engine light probably 6 months ago. Then it, of course, went to the dealership. They refused to fix it and said it wasn't a TCM problem, so they weren't going to cover it under the extended warranty. They said it was 100% a failed clutch in the clutch basket on this car. So guess what I did? I brought it back here, got the factory Luck rep set clutch, installed it in this thing, and now it's still having issues. And what's the issue? P0902. Now, ignoring the couple people that have never watched my channel and just showed up to run their mouths, just saying that I don't know what I'm doing, which is just crazy talk. We got out the manufacturer's video and followed it to the letter for this install, because the first time I do something like this, I actually do love seeing how to do it, measuring everything out, making sure it's perfect. We got the factory tool set. We did it all by the book. And then we put it in and it still doesn't work right. And the comments came after me in the video yesterday. Most people were saying we didn't put enough anti-clockwise rotations on the actuator splines so we could preset the clutch. You run it in and you can go up to 12 turns. Not you have to go 12 turns. It's up to 12 turns until you hear a click, and that is the little clips for the clutch shipping setup releasing. Man, the power is bad today. We might lose power today, and all of the city that I live in is probably going to lose power, because my house that's way, on the other side of the city is also jumping in and out of the UPS like all the time. It's really weird. So if the power goes out, we might shoot this video by flashlight. Anyway, back to this. 12 turns maximum, that's what they say. So Jake did the unlocking procedure on the clutch, and he spun it until he heard a click, and it was a metallic click. I know a lot of the comments said it looked like the ratchet was hitting the floor. I don't think that's it, because your ear can immediately tell the difference between a metal clip releasing and a ratchet smacking a concrete floor. They're pretty distinct sounds. One has a really high pitch, and the other one has like a dull pitch. And obviously the metal clip releasing is the high pitch. And Jake heard that, I heard that, and we also, I assume he felt it kind of click. The other one, the B actuator, when we did that one, it was a much more pronounced click, and we all heard that on video. Everybody agrees that one definitely released. But by the end of this, I was like, well, maybe we did do it wrong. So I pulled the actuator back out, the A actuator, and I ran it a full 12 turns. And I came back over here today to go 13, because some people have said that you might have to go 13 or 14 to actually get them to unlock. Here's the tool. There were more comments saying that we did it wrong because we didn't do it by hand. It is really, really, really hard to turn this thing by hand. Jake was not kidding. That's why he went and got the ratchet. After you get like 4 turns in, there's a lot of pressure on this thing, because what you're doing, right, you're screwing this thing in. It's the same thing the clutch actuators are doing, which are just simple big stepper motors. There's nothing special. There's no rocket surgery about any of this. It's all very simple. You don't need to be a Ford tech. If you work on stuff and you understand how it works, this is all pretty simple. So you put this thing in, you start running it anti-clockwise, and what you're doing is screwing in this shaft, and this shaft has those rollers on the bottom that ride on those 2 pads that I cleaned perfectly. There were some comments asking about the pads. They're flawless in mine. There was no wear. You couldn't feel any wear. They were cleaned with brake clean. It was all put back together by the book, just like I said. So that's another comment I needed to address. But you screw this thing in, and as you do, it like lifts up the fork like that. And then the fork disengages the clutch or engages the clutch, depending on which way it's going. So when you're doing this, you are literally by hand pushing the clutch up. And the first time you do it, it unlocks. And then to answer all of your questions, this wraps up the whole thing. Big Ben's cars and cycles, cycles and cars. He's made some videos about this too, and he commented a few minutes ago, and he said no matter what, when if you drive it for the first time, when that clutch applies, it will unlock the presetting of the clutch. So whether we did this or not, we could have just shoved the motors back in there, started it up, and tried to take it for a drive, and it should have released or engaged the clutch, whichever direction it's going. It's really tough to tell because in your head, you can't really visualize what's going on in this giant spinning basket unless you designed it. But that's like the giant spinning basket's the only part of it you don't understand. The rest of it with the two throwout bearings and the two forks that apply the throwout bearings and all of that, it's super simple. Like you can understand that because you can see it, but you cannot see inside of the clutch basket. Here's another comment somebody asked about. Did you remove the shipping clips? Which I did show in the video that I did, but here they are in case you were wondering. Like, I wouldn't have had another set of these because they would have been taken out at the factory. So here's the clips. They're definitely not in there. And I don't think it'll work at all if you leave those clips in. So that would have been an immediate pull the transmission back out, but they're right here. I do want to show you guys this jack shaft actuator system. So just so you understand what's going on here with the clutch forks, when I spin this, you see that, well, I guess you'd call that the trolley or something like that coming out. And as it comes out, it lifts these things up, and they just lift up more and more and more. Man, that's even rubber sealed. It's cool engineering. And then as you roll it backwards, it comes back down. So there it goes. That's all the way down. You can see it almost touching, and you spin it back out, and it lifts up. Now imagine doing that by hand with the pressure of the clutch. If you've ever tried to apply a clutch by hand, it's impossible. Just imagine that, and that's why you can't turn this by hand. Unless you're a monster. I mean, there's probably some big dudes that have like crazy finger strength and they can turn a hex wrench by hand with a ton of force on it. Not me. This thing weighs so much. But here are the sets of fingers that the throwout bearings push against to release the two clutches. I really did want to tear this apart and show you guys the frictions in here, but just looking in the side of it, it doesn't look like either of them are bad. And they also look like they're the same. And I would expect them, like the A one, to be completely worn out. But now, really looking in here, I don't think either of the frictions were bad, which means Mel Hambelton Ford, it's time to call them out. Misdiagnosed this, blamed the transmission, said it was physical wear, when this was a TCM failure all along. Now, you guys know when I originally started on this problem, I figured it was an electrical failure because everyone said when you get a P0902, it is a TCM failure. And I was like, well, it could be a high resistance in a ground or something like that. And if we pull the grounds off, clean them, which we did on this too, we might be able to fix that by getting cleaner power to the TCM and to the engine, just fix all the grounds, and that would solve the problem. So we did that real quick. That was 6 months ago before any of this started. And then, of course, I was like, oh, they did this extended warranty. We'll take it to the Ford dealer. We'll have them fix it. And then they, of course, said, it's actually a physical failure. Pay us $1,000-something and we'll put a clutch in it. And it turns out, based on all the comments from the Ford techs that have showed up, it's basically guaranteed that it's a TCM. And the last step of troubleshooting that code to see if it was actually an actuator motor or not is just switching them because the actuators are the same. And I did mention this, just people didn't really catch it. Yesterday or the same day I changed the transmission, I swapped the actuators and the code did not move. It's still 0902, and that is why it fails the clutch travel test, because my guess is how the TCM fails. Those stepper motors are that big, like they are big old motors, and you have to have a big old motor driver in the TCM to run those two things. And they're doing a lot of work, right? Like I said, if you can't turn it by hand, I mean, the motor's not having a great time in there either. It's working really hard to drive that jack shaft in and pull it back out for every shift, every time you're driving the car. And those, one has to engage, and then while it's, releasing the clutch, the other one engages. And they're sitting there going like that all day long. Tons of cycles on those things. Big old motors, they're working hard, and it makes a ton of sense that solder joints or the actual motor drivers themselves in the TCM would fail. Now, there's probably somebody out there who's done a deeper dive, torn the TCMs open, figured out what's going on with that, but all we know is it might be better in the 18 plus cars. I think they fixed the TCMs. They also fixed the tuning so the parts don't wear out, but they're blowing through stepper motors a lot faster, which is, it's a trade-off. What are you gonna do? Things are going to break one way or another. But yeah, that's it. It was a TCM failure all along, and Ford denied it, and Mel Hambelton Ford denied it, and now here we are back to, oh look, you guys were wrong and I did all this work. They should honestly pay me for putting a clutch in it. That's what it comes down to, is all of this should have been covered. It should have been a customer sat thing. And who knows how many other people they're out there screwing over like this. Pretty wild. Also, a lot of people said this was going to fail again because the seals go bad on the input shafts. Mine has the light tan seals, so just another one knocked off the list. The black seals in the input shafts are the ones that fail all the time. The light tan ones are the updated seal from the new transmission, and they don't fail nearly as often. So I definitely don't think it was a big deal that I skipped the input seals. They weren't leaking. There wasn't a drop inside the transmission. You guys saw all of it on video. So I thought I might have done something wrong, but huge shout out to you guys for 100% confirming that I didn't, and Ford did everything wrong. So call me, Ford. Fix your problem. Or Mel Hambelton Ford, you guys have my number. It's totally your fault too. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop, watchjrgo.com for cool shirts, not like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. And I will talk to you next time. None of this stuff was bad either. The throwout bearings ran nicely. The frictions look the same. And if you're gonna tell me that P0902 was because of a failed disc, physically, it better actually be failed when I get the thing open. And I'm not gonna cut it open because it's a nightmare, but it looks like exactly the same. Both frictions, like I said, they look the same. So turns out it wasn't wrong. All this stuff was fine, and a TCM would have fixed it all along. And that's what we said from the very first video. And they came out here and tried to gaslight me, I guess. I never needed that term in my life, but that's what the Ford dealership does. So many comments said it was Rustiak Ford too, and I wouldn't have even gone there in the first place. But now I want to go there because they'll probably actually fix the problem.